I'm Christy Bishop, and you're listening to the What Nobody Tells Us podcast. Each week, I'll be exploring a topic that's often stigmatized, misunderstood, or simply left unaddressed. And we're going to be shedding light on the things that nobody tells us, but that everyone should know. Let's get started. Before I start today's episode, I have to give a huge shout out to my friend Amy McKinnon, who we worked together over 20 years ago at an agency called Team One. And she's actually the one who introduced me to today's guest. And her name is Austin Anderson. Austin runs a nonprofit within the DFW area called Puddin Pop. And what Puddin Pop does is provide new and like new clothing that is collected, it's laundered, it's sorted, and it's styled for individual children in the foster care system. Austin has had, she explains her whole background. She's a powerhouse of a woman. I adore her. We're very like-minded and like-energied and like all the things, which is terrifying and exciting all at once. The first time we met, which we cover as well, it was just like love at first sight online, and we cannot wait to meet in person one day. It'll be, there might be a blackout. Let's put it that way. But she is incredibly passionate about the foster care system. And short of fostering herself, which she was outvoted by her husband and two boys, you have to have 100% vote in favor of fostering in-home. Short of doing that, she created this organization to help, because children, whether they're babies or they're toddlers or the young children or they're teenagers, all the way up to, depending on the state, 18 to 22 or 23 years old, when they're moving or entering the foster care system, they often have nothing of their own. They're going into a new home, they're going into a new family, going into a new school, and nothing is normal at all. And to have a little package full of custom clothing in your size, 8 to 10 outfits just for you, with little goodies like a book, stories, other fun things that someone has thought of you to give this to you for you, not for anyone else, is critical. And everyone has extra, right? Like we have extra. You all listening, you have extra. I'm sure there are things that you're like, oh my God, we need to go through our closets. Oh my God, we have stuff sitting in our garage, or we just have crap we need to give to the Goodwill. Well, think about the clothing that you have that's extra, that your kids have grown out of, if you have kids. Or just disposable income if you happen to have any, or enough to like go to a thrift store and just buy some clothing. Austin started to chat with her friends and just look at her own extra, I'll use air quotes, and realize she needed to help. And there's so many people out there who have extra to give. So she tried to create this organization, and very quickly it took off. And she also very quickly started to realize some of the god-awful things about the foster care system and how it's broken in the state of Texas, and where she's living. She's from Colorado originally. And we talk all about the opportunities, how it can be improved, but also how you and I can get involved. She details so many ways that I had never even thought of, because it feels like this system is forgotten. And she's describing these kids as kind of like forgotten friends, which absolutely breaks my heart in every possible way, because these kids didn't do anything wrong to get into the foster system. Their families were either unfortunately involved in drugs, and the children had to be taken away for their own safety, or parents passed away for whatever reason. And these children went from having a family to all of a sudden, the next moment, not having anyone else within their family to care for them. And then they entered the foster care system. And there's this astounding stat that Austin shares, that within like the first 18 months of someone being in a foster system, they are moved like between 6 and 8 times to different homes. And think about that. Like if your kid's away from you, your biological kid, for a certain amount of time, they freak out because they're so used to you. There's psychological safety with you as their parent. Imagine being ripped away from your family, even if your parents are not good parents and they cannot take care of you. That's still your family, regardless, good, bad, otherwise. To go into a new family and then to be shuffled around and not taught the life skills that you need to succeed, to be forgotten, to have the government be in charge of your every single move. Like Austin and I talk about babysitting. Literally, if you want to go on a trip with your family and you are fostering a child and want to bring that child with you, you cannot in certain cases because the government will not allow that to happen. So you need to actually have a foster care system approved babysitter in the event that like you want to go out and have someone care for that child. The intricacies behind this are just astounding. So we dive into the entire foster system. We talk about the California system, the Texas system. Those obviously those are the two states that she and I are in. And we talk about ways to get involved. She talk all about the emotional, physical, intellectual impacts of the foster care system on these children and on the families. And she really brings to light so many things that nobody tells us around foster care and how we can make a change because we all can help make a change. We need to use our power for good. So if you are interested in getting in touch with Puddin Pop, you should go to Austin's website, puddinpop.org. That's puddinpop.org. And you can also find them with real-time stories and real-time needs on Instagram. It's probably the best place to go find them as well. But without further ado, here is my episode with the amazing Austin Anderson, all about Puddin Pop and uncovering the mysteries and debunking the myths behind the foster care system. Hi, Austin. Welcome to What Nobody Tells Us.
Hey, Christy, how are you?
I'm so great because you're here.
Oh, I'm so happy to see your face.
So I have to explain to listeners that you and I've met once via like Google Meet. We were introduced by our friend Amy, mutual friend Amy, who I worked with years and years ago, and like kind of sort of. But she was like, I feel like this would be a good topic around like the foster care system, and you guys should meet. So we had like one chat online that ended up being like an hour and a half of nonstop just connection, hysterical laughter, like deep, deep, deep combo. And I feel like this will be no different.
Yeah. I mean, we were just re-meeting from some kind of past life, and here we are.
Legit. Yes. So listeners, buckle up.
Yeah. And you're welcome. And you're welcome.
In advance. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So, okay, let's just jump in because we have a lot to cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Before we get into Puddin Pop, which is the cutest name of all time, and the way that you're helping so graciously and so benevolent, I'm going to say it on your behalf, so benevolently, it's hard to say, the foster children in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Let's talk a little bit about you before Puddin Pop. So like, just give me some context and some background.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I don't know that I'm qualified to be on this. And thanks to Amy for blindly being like, she'll do fine. So sorry if this never airs out and you're like, what did I do with that crazy woman? So I actually born and raised in Colorado, and this is my second tour of Texas. I came here for college and then came back when my oldest son was about to be 2. So I have 2 boys. One just finished his first year of college, which seems a little weird. My Mother's Day gift was a hat that said his fraternity name, Mom, under it. And I was like, but I'm a member of a Greek establishment. How could I have a mom hat?
I'm like, I'm not old enough to be a mom.
Yes, weird. Yeah. I thought we were the same age now. So, and then my younger son just is about to finish the 8th grade. So I've done a lot of different things professionally, mainly things hated, starting with politics right after college. And then I went into the car business for a long time. I dabbled in multi-level marketing. So really hitting all 3, big 3.
We need to do an episode on MLMs. That's
whoa,
my God.
Oh my goodness. And amazing. I met so many incredible people in all 3 places, but MLM is a different animal. Very interesting, but always in a sales capacity of some sort. I'm delicate, shy. I have a hard time talking to people. And I've never had a job that was not a revenue generating position professionally. So
it is a shame that you are so shy and just difficult to chat with. It's hard.
Yeah. My children say difficult, just period. So I left telecom right around the same time as COVID was starting. And that's kind of what got us here. And I feel very cliche. I love to travel and I cook, and I would do more sports, but for my 40th birthday, I like to get some work done. So I had both my knees replaced, which was my
Oh,
ninth and 10th knee surgeries. So I
what?
don't play as
Wow.
much as I would like to, but I do love a good patio and outdoor weather that's not Dallas summer.
That's good. What did you, well, I have to know, what did you do to your knees to warrant
Um, I
10
think
surgeries?
I, yeah, I think I probably just got a bad set,
Oh,
and
okay.
then combined with volleyball
Yeah.
and lack of moderation, a couple of my doctors said that that might have been part of my problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't hear the full sentence. I kind of just tuned out right after that. But so I love the whole pickleball thing.
Mm.
My knees do not love it, and I'm like, but it's so fun, and the outfits are so cute. So I just get the outfit.
You can sit on the sideline in the outfit with the wine.
Yes,
You be the after
yes,
party for sure.
yes. Maybe we'll fight. We'll have our third meeting on Balboa for the fourth, and
That's
it'll be
right.
in person.
That's right. I
Yeah,
love it. Okay,
yeah.
so what inspired you to start Puddin Pop after you left telecom towards the beginning of the pandemic?
I knew I wanted to do something. I really felt like foster care was a huge interest for me, and I kind of approached the family and lost 3-1 on a vote. And you
Oh,
definitely need to have 100% of people that live with you say yes to fostering because
mm,
it's very, very challenging.
yeah.
So I was inspired from some people that I knew growing up in Colorado who were doing some amazing work with basically just excess. They were taking all the extra things that people have clothing wise and repurposing them. And I thought, everybody I know, everybody has too much stuff,
Yeah.
whether it's Old Navy or Neiman Marcus. We all have bins somewhere
Mhm.
or a bin. And I said, it just pained me that there's such a crisis. There's so many good causes, but for me, the crisis of foster care and that these kids get shuffled so much. So I am very much asked forgiveness, not permission.
Mm.
And I told my husband, I think I want to do this, and I'm going to call it that. And it first launched in my guest room closet, and here we are 3 years later. So,
And we have to explain, and I'll put the video up of you with all of the post-its behind you, hundreds and
oh
hundreds and
yes,
hundreds of post-its of the names of
yeah,
the children that you've helped
yeah,
out.
yeah. When I started, we were at our last house, and I still laundered all the donations myself. So I would write the post-its. I get individual requests still. And so I put the kiddo's name on it, their size, their age, and then any notes that their advocate or foster parent put in the request.
Hmm.
And I was doing so much laundry. I was said, I've got to have some external motivation while I'm in here doing all this laundry. So I started putting them up in my laundry room, and now they cover over half of my main room here in our new home. But it's certainly a tangible gesture. I wish there weren't so many, but it's a good visual for me when I think that what we're doing doesn't really impact anybody. So we just delivered our 1500th package.
That's amazing. So
So
let's back up for a second. I want to know where the name Puddin Pop came from, and then if you can just give like a two-sentence explanation of what exactly the organization does.
Puddin Pop just came from my crazy brain. I wanted something fun, high energy, and kind of gender neutral
Hmm.
that wasn't too baby but still useful.
Yeah,
So like Tootsie Pop, Puddin Pop, that's it.
very cute.
And what we do is we deliver custom sized clothing packages of 8 to 10 outfits to children in foster care, ages they just got here,
Hmm.
newborn, all the way to aging out. And we also include any previously adopted or biological children in the home and provide replacement packages for sizes or seasons on request. And they don't have to return anything, and it's 100% free.
It's incredible. It's just
So
incredible. Can you talk about the foster system a little bit and why this is such a need? I think there's a
mhm,
lot of misconceptions and misperceptions around the foster system. I also
agreed.
think there's a lot of lack of knowledge at all about the foster system.
Oh,
Like I think of the foster system and I think about children who were taken, this might be completely wrong or partially right. So you let me know. I think about children who've been sadly like removed from families who were unable to care for them due to drug use or abuse or whatever,
mhm.
or someone who was given up via whatever reason it might be, or people or youth on the streets for other reasons. Like, is that somewhat correct? And then they're put into the foster system to then go have foster families to care for them.
Totally. You're absolutely right. And I'm still learning. I learned stuff. I went and toured a huge campus this week in Fort Worth, and they're like the biggest serving agency in Fort Worth. And I work a lot with their kinship program, but I'm learning all the time. But what you said is right. And oddly, our two states, California and Texas, have the two largest foster care systems. We're two of the biggest.
Mhm.
In the country. What's very interesting is how different our two foster care systems are, much like our
Mhm.
states,
Yeah, yeah.
and the social services that are available. Um, Over 60% in Texas of children are removed due to neglect.
Okay.
And what that means for us, the people that are not in that world, is that most often it's drug related. So it's not the physical or, God forbid, the sexual abuse that we're hearing of. It's kids that have a parent who is strung out, who
Mm.
is unable to care for them. And that's over half. So
Wow.
that drug epidemic is directly linked to the foster care system,
Yeah.
and that's nationwide. California also has the most longevity. Kids stay in foster care longer. I just read that today in California.
Wow.
Texas has 1 in 10 kids in the country are in Texas.
I mean, it's the state is so vast, I'd imagine just a large
So
population.
vast.
That's wild. What was the reasoning behind the stat you just saw in California that children stay in it the longest?
That's a good question. I don't know that.
Okay.
I do know from a couple of our families that we've served here who have moved to California that their experience have been so different. I don't know anyone that I've spoken to with the intent of the conversation being they were organic in foster care in California first.
Okay.
I have a couple families, probably many families, that have moved from other states into Texas because we're such a blended state. I'm not from here, my husband's not.
Right.
Uh, One of my most seasoned foster moms, she and her husband have been fostering for 27 years, and they're from Minnesota. And it's not good here, is
Okay.
what I've been told from many, many sources.
Okay.
It's not good. There's good things and there's great people, but our programs are very, very broken, very, very behind.
Mm.
Um, so
Is
that's
California,
challenging.
does California, I mean, obviously from a social perspective, just politically, it's night and day from Texas to California.
Totally.
Does that impact the kind of the quality of the foster care systems? And obviously, I'm from California. I live in California.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not coming at this from a California bias. I genuinely want to
Oh,
know.
no, no, no. And that's a good question. I would, without going in and saying, okay, these policies were put in place by this legislature or this
Yeah.
leadership in this year, I would venture to guess that more money is put into your system in California than money is put into the Texas system on sheer conservative, not political, but that backing of fiscal conservative.
Yeah.
Usually those social programs don't follow a huge priority.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
can definitely see that for sure.
so there was an article that statewide, our caseworkers are working with software that was from the late 1990s, which makes it very hard to track or keep up.
Right. Oh my
Hmm.
God. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
This is,
My personal request form is a Google Doc because it's
yeah,
free and wonderful.
sure.
My family's in Dallas County. If it comes through the agencies or the county itself versus the parents,
Yeah.
they can't access Google Doc for Dallas County still today. It's 2024. They have to download it, print it, fill it out, send me a
No.
digital copy. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me just with the general state of government overall, but
Yeah.
that is completely insane. I mean, a lot of people have to create their own processes, right, and use their own platforms. And so,
Yeah.
thank God that you're doing that. What as a mom, obviously, of two boys, one college age and one in eighth grade. What
Hmm.
and I love the fact that you got outvoted 3-1. No, we are not fostering. So, like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to do something. I feel passionate about this system, so I'm going to create an organization that can still help even if I'm not bringing a child into our house.
Hmm.
What unique, knowledge or understanding did you feel as a mom help connected you to the foster system?
I think probably twofold. One, that knowing that kids are kids.
Mhm.
Um, so there's no reason that these kids that are in foster care want or need anything different than what my children want and need.
Okay.
Obviously, the trauma means that they are going to require so many extra things
Yeah.
and all the added layers depending on how long they're in care. But it's still someone's child, and that's kind of second fold for me is there is a parent there, and foster care was designed for reunification. Foster
Mm,
care was not designed for adoption. So that's why the system was created. It
okay.
was a bridge of we will take care of these children until you are able. And now, obviously, there's a huge foster to adopt,
Hmm.
and there's so many kids waiting nationwide for adoption. Um, but the original intent is to protect and provide a safe haven for these children
Hmm.
while the parents get whatever help that they need on any level.
Right.
Yeah.
You shared a just a mind-boggling stat with me when we first chatted about how many times a child moves throughout their time in the foster system. Can you share
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. On average, most kiddos change homes about 6 to 7 times in the first 18 months.
My God. Why? Because it's so difficult because of their trauma and families aren't able to or they're not equipped to provide like the emotional support. Like I'm fully guessing, but why is
Yeah,
that?
I think it runs the gamut, Christy. I
Okay.
think, the older the friends are,
Yeah.
the trauma is different. Also, the behaviors can be different. And there's levels of foster care. Okay. So there's basic, then
Hmm.
there's moderate, and then you go into special need, meaning both behavioral, medical, all those things.
Okay.
The pay grades also go with that and how
Right.
foster families are paid. But yeah, there can be a judge can decide, advocate can say, this is not a good fit.
Yeah.
We thought this was going to be a good fit and we're going to move. And
Really.
I'm very fortunate to know people on all sides of the table in foster care.
Yeah.
And it's hard across the board because some of these foster parents get like a day's notice when a week before they were told rights are going to be terminated, we're moving towards adoption. The
Hmm.
next week they get a call, we're coming tomorrow, we found a second aunt in another state who is going to take the kids.
Oh my God. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God. So they go from thinking they're going to adopt this child who they've completely
Mm-hmm.
emotionally invested
Mm-hmm.
in, financially,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things to
Mm-hmm.
just kidding, we're coming tomorrow. This kid is not yours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
genuinely cannot imagine that because the amount of just like how kind and loving and just selfless these foster families must be. Certainly, maybe
Mm-hmm.
not all, but I don't think I would be able to do that, to like connect with a kid so much and then have them just
Mm-hmm.
ripped. Same thing with a dog. You know what I mean? Far more significant with a child, but like I
Yeah.
couldn't do it with an animal, much less a kid.
Well, and I think that's what is interesting because I think most of us, right, are
Yeah.
thinking just the challenge there. And I've learned a lot of verbiage that I used to say and I don't say anymore. Like, I would never tell any of my foster families how lucky the kids are to be with them. No,
Mm,
no child who's in foster care is lucky, like, not like one little bit lucky.
right.
And even if they get like a home run of it's still not their family.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
think of the adults that we all have some kind of trauma in our lives, and
Yeah.
we all have backgrounds and baggage with family, but it's still our family, and we're adults,
We're adults. Yes, exactly right.
you
That's so
know?
incredibly hard. Yeah.
So I've got actually, I was on the phone with a caseworker today, and kinship is where the kids are placed with family or close family friends, kin.
Mhm.
And one of our new kinship families is a single mom of five biological children, and she has taken in her two nephews and niece.
Oh my God.
So she has eight children, 12 and under. And one of the nephews she took in has a tumor on his brain that's causing seizures and is going to be removed in the next couple of weeks.
Oh my God.
Um, she has since lost her job because of taking him to the medical appointments necessary,
Uh-huh.
but she is fully vested. The kid's advocate, we've been working together and trying to get the resources, and she is an amazing advocate.
Yeah.
And I guess today during court, the judge was like, I'm not sure you're going to be able to financially like keep this together.
Right.
And the ad litem, and ad litem is an attorney for the children that's
Hmm.
provided by the state. And I guess the ad litem is excellent and said, these are all things we can work around. She really wants this to work,
Yeah.
but they could be taken from her, even though she's family. And
Wow.
she cannot get certified as a foster parent in the state of Texas because of the number of children. So because there's over 5, it
Right.
would qualify her to be a group home, which is no longer legal here, and you have to have all these special qualifications. So then you've got families who want to keep the family together.
Right. Of course.
They were given no notice, unlike foster families, traditional foster families who have planned
Right.
and said, we want to do this, we've gotten certified. If she doesn't get certified, that means she doesn't get any financial support.
Oh my God.
So you can see the cracks and
Yes.
they start to expand. And this is a young woman who is doing the very best she can.
Yeah. Yeah. With 8
And
children within her own family, not like,
it might not be enough.
oh my God. And that the children within her own family could be
Yeah.
taken away from her because of
Yes.
because of the system.
Yes.
Can you share some more stories of some of the families again, like thinking about the post-its on the wall behind you, like thinking
Mm-hmm.
of the different types of stories of some of these children to share kind of their like emotional needs, psychological needs, physical needs, the different types of
Yeah.
examples that you've learned.
Gosh, my husband says that I never have good stories. He's like, you are a party ruiner, is what you are. You just are a party ruiner.
You and I
Um,
could do it together.
I can just go in and be like, guess what? So, but I will say there are some good stories. I have met incredible people and people, I would say the most generous people I have met since we started doing this are the people who have the least to give,
Yeah.
whether it's caseworkers, foster parents, biological families that come
Mhm.
together, or the kids themselves. I have a young woman who aged out. She's 22. She has an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, so you can do the math on that. And she
Yeah.
aged out of care. She got her little family together enough to get her 14-year-old sibling out of a residential treatment center and bring that 14-year-old to live with them. And she is barely making ends meet because she works at a factory and she's 22. So, over half of kids who age out will be unemployed within a year of aging out.
Mhm.
And I think it's 70% of current incarcerated people in the United States, over 60, 70, I'll look it up and fact check it for you,
Mhm.
were touched by foster care at some point in their life.
Wow. And when you say aging out, is that the age 18?
Depends on the state, 18
Okay.
to 23,
Okay.
depending. There are some transitional programs, thank goodness, to help kids, um, you know,
Yeah.
launch into the world.
Yeah.
A lot of our friends don't know how to gas a car. Why would they? No one has shown them.
Sure. It reminds me very much of the I don't know if you saw this campaign over the last few months, but it was a Down syndrome advocacy campaign, and it was essentially that children and even young adults with Down syndrome are essentially kind of cast aside and not taught anything. So it's like if you're not taught how to order something at a restaurant because you don't think I can, I'm not taught how to fill up
Right.
a tire because you don't think I can. So do you find similar things with foster children that they're kind of left aside in terms of, parents of their own biological children? Well, honestly, not all, certainly not all,
Yeah.
will take a vested interest in like teaching them
Yeah.
how to become like independent people out in the world, but maybe less so with the foster children.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I have a friend who aged out in particular that she and I have remained close. She actually just graduated last week from cosmetology school, so it's
Mm,
very, very exciting. She entered care when she was 11 or 12
okay.
and bounced around, ended up out of state, ended up here, and she finally saved up enough money. She texted me and she purchased a car
Hmm.
while she was going through school.
Wow.
And it was, I mean, she should, it was, they definitely sold it for parts. It was a private seller.
Yeah.
And yeah, now she's like, I have no money. I spent everything I had to get this car and it's undrivable,
Oh.
and we had to talk about making sure she knew how to get insurance,
Hmm.
how to get her driver's license. We helped her pay for the driver's license fee
Mm-hmm.
So in the state of Texas, you can take the driving course one time, I think, for free.
Mm-hmm.
College is free at a lot of universities if you were in the system for more than a year. A
Mm-hmm.
few universities and colleges also include a room and board. But if you don't know that those programs exist and you don't either have a foster parent, an advocate, or someone at school who's telling you about them, there is no reason for them to exist.
Right. And have any idea that they're even there, that they're even
No,
available to them.
correct.
What are that is heartbreaking, and like all of this is heartbreaking, but like you said, some of the best people that you've met are the people who
Mm,
have the least to give,
yeah,
but
yeah,
who are giving anything and everything that they can. As
yeah.
you worked through this system and really become very familiar with it, what are some of the bigger misconceptions or stereotypes about foster children and about foster system that you've learned to dispel, or have, kind of myth busted on your own?
I think for me, learning about the neglect being the primary reason children are removed of all
Yeah.
ages. I Before this, I would have been nervous to have a teen in my home because I, like a lot of people, assume that there's so much trauma involved. There's no way these young people could be placed in a home that not be disruptive,
Yeah.
which is completely not true.
Mm.
The number of times that the kids are moved is just one of the biggest heartbreaks to me. The stories, of course, on why they enter care at all,
Mhm.
but then how they're shuffled around, and it's not just the babies, it's not just the 5 year olds. It, Imagine you go to school, and I tell my kids this, and your best friend is gone.
Yeah.
Your best friend does not get to call you
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, Miss Christie, can I talk to Dominic? I just
Mm.
wanted to tell him that I moved." And so the older these kids get and they're not keeping up with school,
Right.
it's impossible. Most of my older friends, if they're in middle school, the reading is so challenging.
Yeah, sure.
And then you're saying that our public schools are prepared to have these kids picked up and dropped. It is such a waterfall effect.
Yeah.
Um, and then oftentimes, like in the kinship stuff, these kids are being placed with not just grandparents, but great grandparents
Wow.
who are raising their great grandkids. And in those instances, it is very cyclical, right? They're trying to break this cycle of socioeconomic challenge,
Yeah.
which often involves drugs.
Yeah.
And great grandma is already on food stamps.
Right.
She's already in Section 8. And now she's caring for five of her great grandchildren and probably some aunt or uncle too.
Right.
So it's like, how, this is a drop in the bucket. What are we doing?
And it feels so invisible, right? Like just like in the US overall, anything that's difficult tends to get swept under the rug. And I feel like
Yeah.
the foster kid system, the foster child system, excuse me, overall, it just, thank God there's so many people there to support it, but it really does feel like some of these children as they get older become invisible and unsupported.
Mhm.
And to me that just makes my stomach hurt. Like my stomach, I feel sick,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we give
There's,
so much to our kids, and that there are children out there who are born and can't be taken care of and get shuffled
mhm,
around. And to your point about like you going to school and having your best friend disappear, like to think about the fact that you as a kid or at least have a few months of stability, something, and maybe you start to feel like, okay, I got some friends, I got some
mhm,
stability in school, whatever, I'm starting to learn, and then literally you're plucked out of that, have no ability to get in touch with the people you've just
mhm.
created relationships with, and you have to go completely start over as a child.
Right.
That,
Right.
I cannot even fathom that at all. I think about like the benefits, like on a positive side of this, like
Yeah.
what Puddin Pop is doing, thinking about something that might be taken for granted, like clothing, right? Like these
Mhm,
are clothing, food, shelter, clothing, right? Those
mhm.
basic needs.
Yeah.
When you think about the clothing packages that Puddin Pops provide, like why are they so crucial for these kids? Like what needs do these these packages meet for these kids beyond just basic clothing?
That's a good question. I think it does more than I ever imagined it would when I
Mm.
started it. It's not only that it's something of theirs, but it was made for them. It was picked for them, every outfit, everything. And I ask all of the foster families that if and when the child leaves their home, that their items go with them. That's not always the case,
Mm.
but it is my request. And just that it's they get a book each time. There's a note with their name. It's not printed off. And I don't know if the kids notice or not, but hopefully, if there's a moment and they're like, if someone knows my name or
Yeah.
there is somebody out there that is thinking of me. And we've been so fortunate when I started it. I would say, maybe 5% of my donations were new with tags,
Yeah.
and about 50 to 60% of our stuff is new now. So
Wow.
8 to 10 outfits, and everything's like new or new. We do new only underwear, new only socks, new only swimwear. And what really is sad is when the kids are excited about underwear and socks.
Oh my God.
Like if I wrapped those for my children, the audacity, that's what their face would tell me. And I'm like, oh my God, how have I raised you so wrong? Like and I understand it's a different thing,
Yeah.
but I've had foster families across the spectrum who are very comfortable socioeconomically, and what they say about the packages is the kids in ownership, it's something special for them.
Yeah.
Including the other kids in the home was something that was told to me when I very first started by a woman who's the president of another organization called DFW Angels.
Hmm.
And she said, support all the kids in the house because everything shows up for the kids in care. And bio kids and adopted kids get left out.
Sure.
So to create that unity is important. And most foster homes close within the first year of opening, and we don't have enough anyways.
Wow.
So including everybody is really important. But for the families who aren't socioeconomically challenged,
Yeah.
the packages, I've been told that it allows them to use the money for ballet, swimming, horse riding lessons, whereas they would have had to use the money for clothes.
Right. Right. Wow. So you provide packages for the bio children as well.
We do.
Wow.
Hmm.
That, I mean,
So,
that's fantastic. That's wonderful. Can you walk me through kind of the process of how, like, from beginning to end, do you get contacted by like a foster organization or specific families and then who give you the information? And then how do you go about organizing them and then delivering them?
mhm. I thought when I started it that it would all be through the caseworkers, which I knew nothing. I knew nothing.
Right.
And really just put on my sales hat and was like, I need these people to say yes and start using me. I have these resources, and it took a long time. But I would say 70% of my requests, which come through Google Doc. So
Hmm.
my link is out there in the world. But social media has been my biggest platform, which I hate because I don't love social media, but I couldn't do Puddin Pop without it.
Yeah.
Um, that's been my biggest advocate has been social media. I have a website for legitimacy, and so people literally fill out a Google form.
Okay.
Anyone can fill it out. The majority, I would say over 70%, are foster parents.
Mhm.
So as I've built relationships in the last 3 years with organizations and individuals, now I've got some caseworkers. Now I've got some CASA workers, but the workload for caseworkers is so astronomical.
Yeah.
In the public sector, which is closing here in Texas, it's all privatized now. But an average caseworker could have 40 to 45 kids that
Wow.
they have to see once or twice a month.
Right.
I'm not good at math, but I know that that doesn't add up.
That's insane. That's like
So,
painting the Golden Gate Bridge. Like you get to the end, you have to start all over
oh,
again. That's insane.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. So, I get a lot of referrals. People will tell me, "Oh, I heard about you from this foster family." The foster families are getting really connected, which is the great thing about social media. So they're not so alone, and
Mm.
somebody will tell somebody else. So I'll get the request. literally Google Docs. I put it in an Excel sheet. It's very 1994 of me. It's color coded, just gorgeous, just like in eighth grade. Um, and all of my inventory, I have about 3 rooms now.
Mhm.
And I used to do the sorting, the picking up of donations, and the laundering. And now I have volunteers sign up for all of that.
That's incredible. I love it.
Oh, it has saved me.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean,
Yeah.
this is such a like such a critical need, right? Like what are some of the when I think about like the volunteers who go and then deliver them, like it's a shame that you don't
Yes.
get to see the excitement or kind of what
Yeah.
it's like when they're delivered, but can you share some of the more like memorable or exciting or like just heartwarming stories that you've heard from families who have received your packages?
Sure. I don't deliver very much anymore for time essence and to expose our volunteers, most of which are young people
Yeah.
that are members of charitable service organizations. I delivered very recently to a young woman who is a junior in high school, and she just made the dance team, and her foster mom had reached out and filled a package. And I got to meet her, and just the joy on her face. And I told her that whatever dance supplies, we had some donors that wanted to provide for her as
Mhm.
she's in the color guard or whatnot. And she has a job, she's saving for a car,
Yeah.
and then one of my other favorite things is we forget about the kids that are in care who are also moms themselves.
Yeah.
So what that means is that they've had a child, they were in foster care, they have a baby, the baby's still with them. So the baby is not a ward of the state.
Okay.
The baby is with them, but everything is then is purchased for the baby.
Yeah.
And I always try to include the moms too. And the look on their face is like, these are 14, 15-year-old girls,
Yeah.
and to have someone to recognize them as the children that they are and be
Yeah.
like, here's a book for you, here's a blanket for you.
Oh my God.
I
Oh
know.
my God. I just
I
like
know.
how do you handle the emotional challenges of this? Because this is such incredible, gratifying work, but like being surrounded by all the time. Obviously, you're called to do this, thank God. But like, how do you cope with knowing what is happening with these children and understanding
Yeah.
that bouncing around and just the this like you said this simple joy of just receiving a package of clothes. Like, how do
Yeah.
you handle this?
I don't it's day to day, Christy.
Yeah.
I mean, before we started this, I was very walled because I didn't want to know,
Yeah.
because I knew if I knew, I had to do something. And
Yes.
once you uncover it, it's it's so much.
Yeah.
And there is joy there, there is good there. I feel like I can't walk away because I know.
Yeah.
But there are days, and when I very first started, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And my husband said, and I was frustrated because that's not my usual MO.
Yeah.
Like you, I'm a go, go, go kind of a person.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, Morgan, I don't know. Cannot keep my eyes open. He said, babe, you're bringing home all of this stuff on you.
Yes.
You're taking it all with you, and you in your mind and your heart.
Yeah.
And I had a few moments like that this week where all stories are bad.
Mm,
Some are worse. And this week I had a couple of really, really challenging ones. And I was just like, I'm looking at these hangers and these cute clothes thing, and this is a waste. I can't even get, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's
I totally get it.
overwhelming.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Um,
You think about, though, especially as a mom, you think of like the weight of the world on you,
mm,
thinking about children out there suffering and families suffering and a system that's not built to support it.
yeah. And I feel guilty. I mean, we live in a place, in a home that could definitely take in kids, and that's just not what we're doing right now. And I
Right.
have to be okay with what we've decided to do, because
Yeah.
there are so many ways to help
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
besides opening your home.
Yeah. Well, I
And
was going to ask about that too. Like, what are some of the ways that people listening are like, I'm so interested in this, but I have
mhm,
no idea where to start, and my home isn't
mhm,
conducive, or my family situation's not conducive to taking in
mhm.
a child. Like, what are other ways to get involved?
I would say at the kind of the top way, if you're not going to foster, but you're like, I want to really get like in it, you
Yeah.
can do what's called respite. We were certified for respite. So kids in foster care, let's say you guys decided to foster and you had a couple little friends and you were going on a trip with your daughter, and the judge said friends cannot go
Mm.
for some reason, some agreement, whatever, the parents' work plan, you guys and your child, we're going to go. What are you going to do? You can't just call your sister.
Right.
They have to be approved by the state.
Oh my God.
So we became respite providers, which is a very like light version. It's like babysitting for children in foster care.
I was just gonna say babysitting, but it felt
Mm-hmm.
very like
No, that's
not
exactly what it is.
correct. Like it felt rude to say that, but
No, not
you're
at
like
all.
a babysitter. Okay.
Yeah. So it can be for like, I have some families who've been like, Austin, can you watch the boys? We'd like to go to dinner.
Right, right.
Normal things that you and I would ask each other as
Yeah,
adult friends with children.
yeah.
But a lot of foster families, if they're fortunate enough to have support of their own families will become respite providers so that
Right.
they have that because you can't. So it also can mean if children are removed and there's no placement,
Hmm.
are you willing to take emergency respite?
Wow.
Our very first respite baby was supposed to be like 2 nights. And
Right.
on the fourth night, they're like, how do you feel like 2 more weeks? And we were leaving the country and couldn't do it.
Oh, right.
But these are the gaps that if someone really wants to take a step towards or try it out,
Right.
respite is a really good way to see what's happening.
That is, you want to talk about the things nobody tells us around the foster. I never even,
I didn't either.
these are things we completely take for granted. Like, for example, tonight we're going to a birthday party and we
Yeah,
called the babysitter, like, or because my parents were not available, can you please come
yeah,
in and watch Tessa? Sure,
yeah,
of course. But if
yeah,
you are going to live a normal life with this foster child in your home, you make the assumption, shame on me, that if the kid's going to come with you because they're your kid for that time. No, like
no,
the system is in charge of every single thing and movement around the kid,
yeah,
including where they go and when.
yes, yes,
Wow.
yeah. So respite's a really good option for helping, but also a little like foot in the water. If you're considering
Yeah.
opening your home, it's a great option. And you can do that through any agency.
Okay.
Contact any agency, just Google it or ask around.
Right.
Another good way is programs like DFW Angels, and they have them nationwide. They have a mentor program for foster families where
Mm.
you and your family said, we're going to give 1 year, we will adopt a family, and once a month, you provide a basket, a theme, food, but it's once a month, but you commit a year
Oh my God.
and it's awesome, right? And you can do that as a single person, you can do it as a family. By the way, you only have to be 18 years old to be a foster parent. For
Wow.
any advantageous young go-getters out there, you do not have to be married. You do not have to have a standalone home.
Right.
Like, so
Wow.
supporting foster families, there's great volunteer opportunities. There's a lot of transitional places that are popping up. We've got one here in Dallas called Isaiah's House,
Okay.
run by volunteers. So when the kids are in emergency removal, let's say in the middle of the night, and you've got these little friends, this house is staffed with volunteers, and they're there to make cookies, make sure baths happen, make sure everyone's safe, clean jammies,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Meals, contacting residential treatment centers, RTCs are very, very underserved. And that's where a lot of them are older kids,
Hmm.
are going for whatever behavior, big or small, but it's not a permanent placement. It's
Hmm.
a group situation. Finding out if you can provide a pizza night.
Yeah.
Maybe you and your friends. Hey, everything happens around the holidays. So if you can do it not in December,
Yeah.
imagine. Or hey, we want to buy new swimsuits for everybody at the RTC. It
Right.
could be 15 kids. You got a mom's group, you got a dad's golf group, whatever it is.
Right. Right. Wow.
We
I
do
mean,
a forgotten,
all you need to do is just go to the thrift store. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like if there are a lot of people who are out of work right now and like can't maybe afford some of these things, that's like
yeah,
time is a currency. There's places to buy things for far less, financial expenditure than you would. You're not going to Neiman Marcus to buy things like you mentioned before. You can go to the
right,
thrift store. But
right.
I had no idea about all of this, but this is all basically the system is so broken that the generosity of strangers and organizations developed by strangers, and people who are passionate about this like yourself is what's filling in the gaps. And that is so beautiful, but also it's completely heart-wrenching.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, and there's just, again, the silver lining of social media.
Yeah.
is the ability to, I'll put out a need and say, we need this, and different than clothes, right? So I get to do a lot of special projects, which are incredibly fun for me.
Mhm.
Um, we have a young girl who is a baseball fiend and like competitive baseball, not softball. And she finally, everything got put in place and she's with her grandma now. And we were able to secure for her a very special Texas Rangers, and they just won the World Series last year.
Yep.
They're going to a game in a few weeks because one of our supporters is plugged in with them.
Yeah.
On the same time, another family, I think it's an aunt, and she just got her three nieces back.
Mhm.
And it was the twin girls' birthday, and she wanted to take them to Six Flags, and socioeconomically, that's not possible.
Yeah.
And so I put it out there. I just said, anybody, and I had all the tickets funded, purchased within hours.
Oh
I
my
get an
God.
email for some other friends saying, no, 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 don't buy them yet. So and so, who's on the sea level with Six Flags, would like to donate them, and then the
Oh,
money can be used for something else.
yes.
So people want to help.
I
People
love
want to
this.
help, and whether you help one time or you do it regularly, like your $5 $50, it matters. Your volunteer ability. Some of my volunteers, when they deliver on the weekends,
Mhm.
they've started taking donuts or treats, little extras.
Mhm.
And it gives them as much a shot of joy as it gives the family receiving it.
Yeah. I want to look into this for ours. I love the idea of like a monthly commitment or like an annual commitment where you do something once a month and just do like a
Yeah.
themed basket because God knows
Yeah.
it's XYZ day, right? Like
Yes.
help, but just fun little surprises. Like it's National
Yeah.
Pizza Day. Like here's a whole pizza making
Totally.
kit, all these things, like
Yeah.
you can be for people who have extra, like you said, everyone has extra. This is I like to ask Tessa this question and her answers are next level because she's 7.5 with, the best
I,
imagination ever. But
I
like
love it.
this is my queen for a day. If you could be foster queen for a day and you could change the system
Mm.
and fix it, and I know that's a wildly generalized statement, what would you do? What would you prioritize based on the cracks that you've seen and opportunities?
That's a really tough question.
I'm sure it is.
Um, I think first and foremost, getting children of all ages to a safe environment faster so you don't find out that they were struggling for 6, 7, 8 years of their life before they were removed first. And that if and when children are removed, that they are transitioned the most optimally possible. It's not going to be good, right? There's no easy way to remove people from their families.
Yeah.
That they're transitioned in a way that is trauma based informed
Hmm.
and placed as few times as possible with a very clear path of here's what we're doing with all of the mental health support for everyone involved, the people removing them,
Yeah.
the people they were removed from, the people they're going to, and the transition caregivers, from teachers to doctors to, we have Cook's Children's here in Fort Worth that's free for all the children in foster care.
Yeah.
And I think the transition out and the limited movement would make things long term so much better. And I really think that these friends that are aging out, we've got to do better. We have got to give them a better on ramp. They've already survived
Hmm.
the worst thing. No one's bringing them home. What could we do? What program could we have that catches everybody who's like, okay, they aged out today. Tomorrow, here's where you're going, or here's what you have, or here's your team. Here's Christy, here's Austin, and they've got your social security card. They've got your college application if you want it, or your GED. These are the options you have if you want to move X, Y, or Z place,
Hmm.
to catch them so that they don't then become homeless.
Yeah.
Um, Most young girls are pregnant within 2 years of aging out.
Oh my God.
So guess what?
Yeah.
Like, and it all can be I don't know that it can be fixed, but I think more people involved is always a good thing.
It's almost like there needs to be this wild organization dedicated to foster concierging. I think that, like you said, and that's such like a fancy word for the foster system, but it's like these functional assistance that, whether it's giving you that college application or your social security
Hmm.
card, like you've just said, here are the basic fundamentals of things that you need to know going into
Hmm.
this next year of your life. Right. And it's
Hmm.
like, here's your checklist and here's links to all of these things. And here's someone to help you fill these things out. Whatever it is, like a hand holding assistant instead of just tossing them, to the wolves,
Yeah. Well,
which
and imagine like when something goes wrong for my oldest son in college, he has a lot of people he can call.
sure.
Imagine literally having no one.
Yeah.
You can't get your mind around what, and that is the norm.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much
So,
they don't know and haven't been
yeah,
taught.
right. And then guess what? You're grouped with other people who are like you.
Right. Right, right. And that becomes your knowledge base, right? It's like what you only know as much as somebody else knows and vice versa. And a
Exactly.
lot of that is probably wrong information, but they've done the best that they absolutely can. So a lot of it is just total pure misinformation because no one's taught them anything different,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
And the whole concept, I used to so believe in this and I adamantly disagree with it now, is the pulling yourself up by your bootstraps.
Oh
If
God.
you don't have boots or you don't know what straps are and you've never seen it, how am I supposed to do it? And maybe instead of looking at the few people who are able to do it, we should look at the majority of people who have no means to do it.
Right. I think about, you mentioned earlier the mental health resources and support for this because it's like, again, like you and I come from stable families, better than most, and great
Mm.
relationships with our parents and all of these things, whatever it might be. And everyone has their own baggage. But I think about the just being shuffled around. Like if like our daughter's with us all the time. She's like literally like there's no better, bigger, safe space for her than myself and my
Right,
husband, right?
right.
Like, and if I walked, she had to get a cavity filled yesterday and a tooth pulled at the dentist, and like I had to leave the room for her to get like the radiation of the they put the giant like blanket on
Yeah.
or whatever, the weighted blanket.
The x-rays.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The X-ray
Yeah.
blanket thing. And they're like, Mom, can you just step out for a second? And she was like, Mommy, why did you have to leave? Why did you have to leave? And I was like, well, for safety, and explain it. But she was like, not thrilled about the
Yeah.
idea that I had to walk 6 feet away. Like, I can't even imagine the mental health needs of these children and like their ability, the lack of trust, the lack of belief that anyone's going to love them, the lack of the development of self-worth and self-identity and
Mhm.
possibilities for their future. And like you said, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, it's like, Jesus Christ, it's not their fault that they're in this position. They didn't do
Ever.
anything wrong.
Ever.
They become stigmatized as these like fucked up kids, but it's like they're
Yes.
kids who didn't do anything wrong. Their families failed them at that point in time for whatever
Hmm.
reason, and
Hmm.
God bless them if they can pull it together and get the kids back. But these poor children to just be like lost out there.
Yes.
Oh my
Uh,
God. Oh,
and just the development aside from whatever trauma,
yeah.
right? The development then kind of stops.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you might look 16,
Right.
but if you've been in care, in and out of care, you've been reunified, then pulled, then reunified 7, 8 times
Yeah.
since you were 6,
Yeah.
you're not the same 16-year-old that sits next to you in math. You're very, very different.
Yeah. I mean, they
It,
they say that your mental and emotional development really stops at the age of your very first significant trauma. And so you got a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old's body sitting there.
oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, and add another layer, the friends in care whose parent or
Mhm.
parents passed away, and
Right.
that's why they're in care. That had nothing to do
Yeah.
with trauma, like things were fine.
Right.
We have some friends who, um, same in your state,
Mhm.
families were coming into the United States, they were detained, the
Oh,
kids were kept, and the parents were sent, and the kids do not speak English, and they are in foster care.
that is such a trigger for me because when that happened a few years ago, during the previous he who shall not be named administration, and like that's as far as I will go with that. Like
Yeah.
I literally said to Brian, I was like, I'm getting on a fucking plane and I'm going to the border. And he's like, you can't do that. Like Tessa was like 2 years old, 1 years old. And he's like, you can't leave your child. B, you can't go get arrested at the border. And C, like literally you can't do anything about this. And as a mom, knowing like the idea that like a child after trying to get here, whatever you believe on immigration, again, like different
Yeah.
topic, different podcast, but that
Yeah. Mhm.
babies and like special needs kids and with special medical requirements are being stripped away from their parents and physically pulled away from them and shoved into a foster care system here with parents who are deported makes me want to die. Like I
Yeah.
just, but I mean, there's that aspect versus somebody whose parents got in a car accident and they don't have any other family and the parents passed away in a
Right.
car accident and all of a sudden they're going to the grocery store, parents are gone and they're put in the foster system. It's like
Right.
you can't even wrap your head around this stuff.
You see why I ruin parties, Christy. I just keep adding layers,
But it's
layers.
but this is a reality that people need to know about, and because there's so
Um,
many people out there who want to help, to your point. And I think all of the ways that you've just outlined are so beautiful in how you actually can help and like how you can get involved. Because honestly, I didn't know any of those ways to get involved, but you've just given me all of these little sprinkle sparkles in the back of my head, be like, okay, like after I
yeah.
get off this, I want to go talk to Brian, be like, how can we like find an organization and help to
Yeah.
support families,
Yeah.
not just around the holidays, like you said, for sure.
And if that is the holidays your thing, great, right? Like,
Right.
and whether it's foster care or something, there's so many causes. And I tell my children this, you have to be a part of something bigger than yourself and advocate for something. It doesn't have to be this, but there's so many amazing causes, and none of this would happen if people didn't on a Thursday
Hmm.
say, you know what? I am going to Costco anyway.
Hmm.
I'm going to get this, and this, and drop it at the homeless shelter and new socks.
Yeah.
Like, it
So
doesn't have to be grandiose. We did a thing, we just had our second year. I called it the Forgotten Friends holiday.
mm.
And the first year, again, my ask forgiveness, not permission, meaning I just kind of launch it and then figure it out, which is not always the best idea. Um, but I said, I'm going to take teens age like 14 and above, and they're going to submit two big wishes, two small wishes, no parameters, and we're going to answer exactly what they asked for.
Yeah.
We did 23 teens the first year, and we got, I mean, we've never bought so many Nikes.
Oh God, yeah, I'm sure.
And then this last year, we did 57 kids, thanks to our supporters. And the spend was upwards of $35,000.
Incredible. That's incredible.
And, and a lot of people are like, why do they need a MacBook? Why do they need those Air Jordan, whatever? I go, why is that up to you? If you
100%.
don't believe in it's what they want. I would argue that they deserve it more than any other children, but
Yeah.
that's just me, including
Yeah.
my own.
It's the one thing that they have, the one nice thing versus the
Right.
7,000 nice things that all of our kids have.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like we talked about, I think your daughter, her room just got redone, like
Yeah.
having like bedding or anything that, and there's a lot of people hopefully that are going to listen with your outreach, which is so amazing that even if you don't have a ton of extra, you have time
Yeah.
sometimes, you care, so you can care in other ways.
Yeah.
If you can't monetarily contribute, there are so many ways to help
Yeah.
and getting the visibility out there.
Totally. Like time is a currency. Energy is, your
Mhm.
literally your physical presence is a currency. It doesn't have to be money. And I think,
Exactly.
like, we joke, but kind of not about like, oh, we're the biggest party killers of all time. But I think the biggest, most important point here is like, I always say to Tessa, and I'm sure you say to your boys too, like, look for the helpers. Like, we are
Yeah.
the helpers, right? So,
Yeah.
like, there are so many people out there who are helpers and who want to be helpers, but don't know how. And I think this is such an important part of not just this conversation, but all of the conversations that I have with What Nobody Tells Us to help people understand how to get involved or at least support
Yeah.
people going through these types of situations because there's just so little awareness, so little understanding, and so much fear and hesitation and awkwardness around all of these different topics,
Yeah.
particularly around the foster care system. But the foster
Yeah.
care system, ironically, has like helping someone with cancer can be very difficult. It's like, here's a gift card, like here's a blanket,
Yeah,
here's whatever. With foster care, there's tangible ways to help. Like there are
for
so
sure.
many ways to help these kids. And that's what I think is the positive about this. No matter how like, negative the reality is.
Agreed. Agreed. And that's the biggest takeaway. We are in such a point of privilege to have these conversations,
Yeah.
to not just have the podcast or have a nonprofit, not be working 5 jobs like by myself with 8 kids,
Hmm.
such privilege across the board. But I always tell people, use your power for good.
Yes.
Use
Always.
your power for good.
Hmm. Yes.
And the good is so different to all different kinds of people. You don't know what your efforts are going to mean to the people receiving it,
Hmm.
or what it's going to do to inspire other people to give.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing is things seem so polarized right now.
Hmm.
And the last few years have obviously been really, really crazy. But we're here.
Hmm.
It could all change tomorrow. Am I
Yeah.
going to do the most with today that I can? Am I going to mess up? Absolutely. But I wouldn't know you
Right.
if I didn't connect us, right? And
Right.
even if you're one more person in the entire universe who feels drawn to foster care, cool,
Oh, are you kidding? Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
you just don't know.
Yeah. You just don't know. I mean, like you said, there's so many people out there who want to help and to have
So
these
many.
connections. And all you need to do is put yourself out to do that. Where if people wanted to get involved, obviously it's local to DFW, but like get
Hmm.
involved or find and learn more about Puddin Pop, where's the
Yes,
best way for
please.
them to learn?
I would say Instagram,
Hmm.
and we're on Instagram and Facebook. I don't do the Twitter or the TikTok. I don't know how all that works, and my children think that's hilarious.
Fine.
Um, my website's fine.
Hmm.
But it doesn't give the real time. If you look on Instagram or Facebook, you're gonna see the daily stuff that we're doing. Also has our current needs, whether we just did a tablet today for a young man who's
Mm.
16. Um, so there's always big and little ways. And I'm also so happy to help people find local things. So whether
Yeah.
it's California or somewhere else, there's a million different ways to get plugged in.
Yeah. What I love to
So,
do like a final word
okay.
on for every topic that I do. Do you have like and doesn't it, people have asked me like, is it one word? I'm like, no, it's a statement. You could say one word like, oh, get involved. I don't know. But
Yeah.
what's kind of your final thought for people out there just around the foster care system, around, wanting to get involved or just in general?
Mhm.
Like what's your kind of final thought?
Do more,
Hmm.
love more.
That's so simple and so profound.
Well,
I love it. I mean, I really do think so many people are starting to wake up to this, just in
I hope
general,
so.
right? And
I hope so.
maybe it's just self-selecting sample, but I'm seeing a lot of people who are really trying to use their power for good, just like you are, just like I'm doing my
Just
best.
like you are.
Yeah. So I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing,
Oh,
for sharing all this information. For I'm excited to meet you in person.
yes, our third date.
Our first date. I know. We'll tell Amy, look at us, very much in love. But thank you for everything that Puddin Pop is doing and for just sharing your expertise. And I know it is not easy, but just remember how many, again, all you need to do is Jesus Christ, look at those post-its behind you. And that's what I do want. I want a video, if you don't mind. Take a video of the parts of your home where you have all these things and I'll post it on
Oh,
social when this
okay.
episode comes out and we can show
Okay.
people kind of what these looks like a
I
little
would love that.
tour.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy. Thank you for having me, Christy. Thank you for what you're doing. I love getting to know you, and I'm excited to know you as a human.
Absolutely. Yes, not just a bot.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
All right. Thank you, Austin.
All right. Thanks, Christy. Talk to you soon.
Well, that's it. Another episode of What Nobody Tells Us. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you felt something. I hope you learned something. And I hope you feel empowered to go reach out to somebody who might be going through something you don't understand. Lean in, ask the questions, make the connection, be the friend who starts the conversation. I can't tell you how much it will mean to someone. If you have ideas for further topics, please reach out to me. I love hearing from you. Your emails and your tweets and your texts and your Instagram DMs are so welcome and so amazing. If you want to hear more, every episode is available on my website, christiebishop.com. That's Christiebishop.com. You can find all previous episodes, and you can also book me for speaking engagements, for training, coaching, and marketing consulting. I've only been doing that for the last 20 plus years. It's one of my first loves. So again, thank you for listening, and until next time, I'm Christy Bishop, and this is What Nobody Tells Us.